Hello, my name is Joshua Goss, and I am a master's student who is majoring in new media journalism at Full Sail University. I want to welcome you to my Week 2 assignment research case study presentation, in which I will be discussing two Supreme Court cases. The first is the New York Times versus Sullivan Supreme Court case, and the second is the Gertz versus Robert Welch Incorporation Supreme Court case. So, in the first Supreme Court case, New York Times versus Sullivan, the New York Times wrote an article about Mr. Sullivan, who was one of three commissioners of Montgomery, Alabama. Sullivan claimed he was defamed by the New York Times because they wrote an article titled "Meet Their Rising Voices." The ad discussed the terror being imposed against people who participated in the civil rights movement. And as we all know, the ultimate goal of the civil rights movement was to put an end to segregation in the South and promote equality amongst all races of people. Sullivan claimed the ad indirectly referred to him, although his name was never mentioned. Oversight responsibility of the police was Sullivan's reasoning for why he thought the ad was about him. The New York Times claimed it authorized publication of the ad because it didn't appear to provide any false information. Sullivan, on the other hand, demanded that the New York Times retract the ad. The New York Times was confused as to why Sullivan felt the ad spoke negatively of him. Sullivan felt his reputation was damaged by the New York Times publication because he had oversight responsibility of the police, had a close rapport with them, so they felt that the fact that he felt that the fact that he had a close rapport with the police department is why that the ad was targeting him, but that was not the case at all. His name was never mentioned anywhere in the ad. The elements of libel are the following: a defamatory statement was made, a defamatory statement was false, a defamatory statement was published with the intent to depict the plaintiff in a negative way. The defamatory statement is about or concerning the plaintiff. The defamatory statement injured the plaintiff. When I say injured, I mean the plaintiff's credibility or public image was injured. And the plaintiff has to prove that the ad was made out of hatred, ridicule, or scorn. The Supreme Court awarded the plaintiff $500,000 in damages. They made the decision because some of the information provided in the ad was erroneous. The next Supreme Court case that I will discuss in detail is the Gertz versus Robert Welch Incorporation Supreme Court case. Gertz, who was an attorney hired by a family to sue a police officer who had killed the family's son in Chicago. The petitioner was a private person. Private persons are more vulnerable to injury from defamation. The reason for this is that they have less opportunities for rebuttal than public officials and public figures. The alleged defamatory statement made against Gertz was that he supported communism to discredit the Chicago Police Department. Also, it alleged Gertz framed the cop who was on trial for murder, which was not the case at all. He had nothing to do with the murder that took place. He didn't frame a cop. That was just an allegation that was made to defame him. $500,000 was awarded to Gertz after the case was sent to the jury. However, Gertz lost his libel suit because the trial judge found the magazine had not violated the malice test for libel. The malice test for libel was established in the New York Times versus Sullivan Supreme Court case in 1964. I think the allegations affected Gertz's reputation by questioning his credibility as an attorney, and it hurt his efforts in, landing future potential clients because they probably looked at this Supreme Court case and thought, wow, maybe he is a supporter of communism. But, once you do your research and look into this court case in more depth detail, you will discover that Gertz was not a supporter of communism. Would I have done differently to avoid a lawsuit? I would not have published anything about Gertz to damage his reputation nor question his credibility as an attorney. I'm a firm believer in karma, so what goes around comes around. So in the end, um, Gertz was awarded the $50,000 due to the libelous statements that were made against him. So it's just goes back to why lie about someone, and in the end you only thing you're doing is hurting yourself. So I don't understand why Welch Incorporation felt the need to um, spread lies about Gertz. Um, California's defamation law states that the plaintiff needs to show special damages to property being made, business, trade, profession, or occupation resulted due to defamation. Also, the plaintiff must provide proof of expenditures from that defamation allegations. I can relate what I learned from the Sullivan and Gertz cases into my future work by just making sure that all of the information I use in articles isn't erroneous, because nobody wants to be told lies. You must always be truthful in whatever posts you make, whatever interviews you conduct, or whatever articles that you decide to construct, because once word gets out that you are not being truthful, your following will decrease tremendously. And if your following decreases tremendously, it'll be hard for you to really be a successful journalist. So as I continue to travel down this road of mastery, I will continue to soak up as much knowledge as I can about the journalism industry. Avoid, spreading lies about people that I am writing about, and make sure that I'm not producing any false information, and that all of my information is truthful. And so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this presentation, and I'm looking forward to all of the positive feedback that I will receive from this presentation. Thank you so much for your time and cooperation. Hope to hear from you soon.